Professor Angelov. You've given us a fantastic lecture in the Balkans Dialogue Conference. I would like to ask some questions. So before that, could you please summarize your lecture in some sentences?
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm very glad to have facilitated this I believe, first such event organized by your institute. The bottom line of my presentation was trying to present Macedonia's, let's say, domestic dynamic and political system, which is pretty specific in many aspects, but also Macedonia's foreign policy in the last 2 decades of its full independence through the prism of one statement, which is integration without assimilation. And I've explained, let's say, how this principle is applied on a daily basis from day one from our independence being proclaimed in '91, being a society which is multi-ethnic in Macedonia, that all communities, majority or minority, are being guaranteed their identity and its identity being preserved and advanced by a set of measures. So that's why we say integration in the society without assimilation. But this was all done in the purpose that there should be individual autonomy, so to say, of individual when it comes to his or her national belonging, but then the country to be a functional state, a unitary state. But on the level of foreign policy, namely the EU integration process, because of the specificity of Macedonia's challenges on the process, Macedonia could have been an EU member even by now, if it wasn't for one very unique problem imposed by one member state, which is Greece, on the name of the country, and Greece is misusing its own right of veto in the EU decision-making process, demanding that the country changes its name. With this, we also see this in the context of the sentence of integration without assimilation, because the name of a country or of a person is a very basic human right, and this we see as an imposition on our human rights as a nation. But nevertheless, being pragmatic in a political world, we have been involved with them in a dialogue on this problem for 15 or more years, hoping that this will be resolved. So far, no positive outcome, simply because the other side doesn't feel the urge or doesn't have the impetus to come to terms to compromise on this issue. So this notion, I see an application to explaining our domestic, let's say, specificities in our political system, but also in having the society function in this multi-ethnic context, but also on top of it, I would say, even in foreign affairs when it comes to enlargement. Yeah.
Thank you. I will ask a little bit provocative question. Do you expect any changes in the quality of intercultural relations within the EU integration development, or as the EU integration goes on?
So when it comes to the EU enlargement, talking about new member state joining the club, if, and this I mentioned in the lecture, if this process goes on in a natural course, meaning, like, of course, if a country meets a criteria, each should receive an advanced stage of the process. In such a scenario, I would say all cultural challenges or cultural related or ethnically or religiously related challenges, especially in the Balkans as a multi-ethnic setting, can be very much eased. But only if this process continues. But at the moment, this process is stalled, in the case of Macedonia, for many years, for instance. In the case of other countries, I won't go into which, but many countries in the region also feel that they have been neglected in the process, although they are meeting criteria. So such a situation, and on top of it with the economic and financial and social crisis across Europe, provides a very dangerous, let's say, context that those who might have a nationalistic agenda might seize the moment and misuse such a disappointment from the EU process, and or perhaps simply the process not moving in a just way. In such a scenario, if we continue with this unbalanced approximation to the EU, it can be a problem. Within the EU itself, I can tell my private opinion, meaning like I can imagine that with the continued economic and social crisis in the EU member states and the EU as a whole, of course, we're going to see more and more issues of national or religious nature coming up on the surface, simply because in moments of economic crisis, nationalism is always finds its own fruitful ground. So.
Okay. My last question is: you mentioned about the debate between Greece and Macedonia about the name of the country. Do you think, how do you see if soft power can help to solve this problem? Is it a way for soft power?
Soft power approach was utilized for many years back, and is, as we speak, the approach is being used. Soft power meaning that for 15 even more years, the United Nations was involved as a broker or as a mediator in the process. There's still a special envoy from the UN who is the mediator in the process. We see that we haven't come to a solution still. Now, something which we very much appreciate is the European Commission. Even the Commissioner of Enlargement itself are very actively involved into a shuttle diplomacy, so to say, visiting Skopje and Athens in the last couple of months. I don't want to be a pessimist to say this might fail also, but unless there is also not so far, but actual political pressure exercised on the other side, as much as there has been on us, simply because we are the ones applying for EU membership and being scrutinized in all possible ways, I am doubtful that it will be possible to simply the soft power approach to bear fruit, although, let's see, it might happen this time, but our past experiences speak of something else.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.